Again, 636-278-2272, or visit my website, angelathomas.org. I'm considered a psychic, so I provide accurate and detailed psychic readings for individuals as well as groups. Remember, no matter what influences your life at the moment, live life to the fullest. Stay in gratitude, count your blessings, and prepare yourself for more opportunities around the corner. I'm Psychic Angela Thomas, and my website is angelathomas.org.
If you are listening to the show and wish to join us in the chat room, visit paltalk.com. Go to the social issues, select other, and enter the UFO Paranormal Radio Network.
The UPRN family of shows would like to take a moment to thank our loyal listeners for tuning in to uprntalkradio.com along with 107.7 FM New Orleans. Broadcasting on multiple platforms like Live 365, Ustream, and Shoutcast has made the UPRN the longest running, highly rated, and best source of quality, unique programming that is not afraid of the status quo in alternative media. This station has a solid course of shows and hosts that refuse to get stuck in a rut or be overrun by a groupthink mentality, because station owner, host, and iCar founder Joe Montaldo knows the value of letting his talented stable of hosts grow uninhibited. In this genre, that's an accomplishment which many in alternative radio are striving for, but are left consistently wanting. This is all made possible because of you, the listener, that tunes in live every night, who can tell the difference that independent thinking makes. The best way to show our appreciation is to thank you and continue to allow our listeners the ability to download the archives of all the shows free of charge on iTunes, Podbean, and SoundCloud. No monthly fees, no cost to download individual shows, and none of the constant hassling for donations. That's the uprnradio.com difference. So stick around, there's much more to come with new shows on the way. For now, feel free to join your favorite show live in the Pal Talk chat room, easily accessible off uprntalkradio.com, and share the experience of listening live with other listeners from around the world. So thanks for listening, and thank you for being a part of the uprntalkradio.com family of listeners.
Tune in to The Mind Cemetery with your hosts Chip and Nicole every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We delve into UFOs, abductions, ghosts, aliens, conspiracies, and cryptozoology.
And how could you ever forget about those creepy topics you won't hear on your local news?
This is where I would insert my obligatory skeptical statement. The Mind Cemetery, where the paranoia about the paranormal comes to rest.
Follow us on Twitter and subscribe to us on Facebook. Also, check us out on our website, mindcemetery.com, for show updates and the critically acclaimed Mind Cemetery blog.
It's not critically acclaimed, but you should check it out anyway, mindcemetery.com.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Bennetti, and along with Joe Montaldo, we host News on the Flip Side. Come join us every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central for our 3-hour program. We have opinions on everything, and we're not afraid to share them. False history gets made all day, every day. The truth of the new is never on the news, but you can find it here with News on the Flip Side. Remember, don't be politically correct. Just be correct. Join us.
Welcome to News on the Flip Side with your hosts, Stephanie Bennetti and Joe Montaldo. Remember, don't be politically correct. Just be correct. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Bennetti, and along with Joe Montaldo, we host News on the Flip Side. Come join us every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central for our 3-hour program. We have opinions on everything, and we're not afraid to share them. False history gets made all day, every day. The truth of the new is never on the news, but you can find it here with News on the Flip Side. Remember, don't be politically correct. Just be correct. Join us.
Welcome to News on the Flip Side with your hosts, Stephanie Bennetti and Joe Montaldo. Remember, don't be politically correct. Just be correct. Welcome, everyone.
Good evening, everybody. I hope y'all having a great evening, great morning, great afternoon, wherever you are on our beautiful blue planet. Sorry about the News on the Flip Side intro there. I'm not sure where that came from, but hey, maybe it's because Stephanie's on the line with us and tonight. I don't know. That was weird, but we'll correct that shortly. Tonight's guest is going to be Jim Allen. We have been doing a series. This is the third of a 3-part series we're doing, and quite a few things we're going to discuss tonight. It's hard with Jim because we've done 2 good shows with him. They've both done well in archive, both well live, and there's just a lot of information. If you've heard the previous 2 shows, they are packed with information. From the original story that got him into all of this, which is very interesting, you should listen to that at the very beginning, to all the chapters in between. Now, we've talked about a lot of conspiracy stuff. We've talked about Kennedy. We've talked about Ruby Ridge. We've talked about Oklahoma. We've talked about Waco. A lot of good material. Tonight, we're going to start off with 9/11. I was going to say 9/11, but I know somebody gripe at me back.
Wait. I know I'm a guest on your show, so Stephanie Bennetti here, but Joe and I are no strangers. But I'd like to say something about Jim, if you don't mind, Joe.
No, go ahead.
He is like an unpretentious, he's just putting it out there. I believe him wholeheartedly. Like, he has his story and his information, and he just put it out there. And he's not like things like, oh, I've written 10 books and I'm pretentious, and not at all. It's just genuine information, and that's important.
No, it is. Also, for anybody listening tonight, a lot of stuff going on, which we're not going to get a chance to catch up on tonight since we started, but a lot of good UFO material coming out of Washington State and Oregon. I've been talking with some friends up there. A lot of activity up there. A lot of activity along the Gulf Coast recently. Not sure what's going on. A lot of wave flaps, which means there's going to be a lot of abduction reports. I've already started seeing the abduction reports coming in, which is good for us because we've got another project going on, which I'd love to tell you all about, but I can't. It's hard for me not to say anything. But anyway, moving on from that. A lot of other good stuff going on, so I want everybody to keep up. Currently, I'm talking with a couple people about maybe updating the iCar site. Don't forget, tomorrow night, Stephanie and I, Flipside Light. It's going to be fast and furious. There's going to be 4 topics tomorrow that we're going to probably talk about, which will probably get repeated on Saturday. And they're going to be fast and furious topics because, frankly, 2 of them are kind of serious but amusingly funny at the same time. So I really can't wait to get into them too. And then, like I said, we'll rehash them again on Saturday because I'm sure by then these 2 people will have made yet more stupid.
Well, I'll have more information.
Yeah, well, it's just so be sure to tune in for Flipside Light, and remember, join us on Saturday night also. Coming on Fridays, Jeffrey Pritchett's always there. Got 2 new shows coming on the network. They're already a done deal. Just don't know where they're going yet. I got to talk to some hosts because I might be moving some people around, so y'all be informed about that. One of the shows is really good. Maybe one coming after us on another thing. Maybe one coming after this show. But anyway, that's all for the future as well. Just kind of bringing everybody up to date. Also, too, for my friends in New York, especially for my friends in New York. Hudson Valley, I got 2 really good reports yesterday of what appears to be an elongated disc hovering along about 500 feet above the Hudson River, moving north. So if anybody else has seen that, please write to me because the 2 people who wrote to me originally were abductees that had seen this sighting. And as far as they know, they were first-time abductees, which, of course, I'm always fascinated by. So if you're in the Hudson Valley area, which I'm not sure where that is compared to where Stephanie's at, but that's like up north, right? Is that northern?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So anybody up there, I know we had a gentleman on a while back from the Hudson Valley who wrote a really good book on the UFO sightings up there. So, but again, if anybody's had any experiences up there, also while I'm on the sighting thing, Miami, Florida, I had, Miami, we don't get much in the way of sightings out of. We get them all along the Florida Panhandle and even along the Florida coastline. But Miami, for some reason, I'm not sure why we don't get much in the way of anything out of Miami. I don't know what it is. Maybe because of the proximity to the Bermuda Triangle. Maybe I have no idea why. We just don't. Also, too, though, I got a report out of Florida Keys 3 days ago from I forgot which key it was, but a guy reported seeing two mysterious silver disc-looking things moving out towards Bermuda at a fairly good clip. Might have been UFOs, might have been planes off in the distance. I'm not sure, but if anybody else has seen them, write to me and let me know. We're always curious to correlate any sightings we can with people who are saying they're having abductions. So we just like to see if 1 and 1 equals 2. But I know we're going to get down to business tonight. Jim, how are you?
I'm great, and it's always an honor to be on your show.
Well, you're always a blast to talk to. I mean, like I was saying at the beginning of the show, we have just tons and tons and tons of information that we've crossed. Really, really good information too. I mean, some of the conspiracy stuff we've been going over is some of the best I've seen in a while. A lot of people do stuff like talk about Ruby Ridge or Waco or any of the subject matter we've talked about, but they always seem to do it from, how can I say this, from an ego-driven point of view. Like most people, when I talk about 9/11, it's always from an ego-driven point of view. My way is the only way. This is how it is, especially if they happen to be from New York. Then it's really, really that way. And you don't really write that way. You really write. I mean, there was a lot of facts that I read that some of them I weren't aware of. I'm a pretty well-informed guy. So for me to see something in a book that I haven't seen is I got to say, it's a surprise. I'm not even lying about it. I'm just going to be honest. It's just a pleasant surprise. But, ladies and gentlemen, the book is Smoke and Mirrors. You should go out and get it. It's linked off of the UFO on the cover site. Later on this evening, it will be linked off. It's actually on the Facebook pages. It's on all of our pages, MySpace, Google, but it's back about 3 weeks now. So, again, we will republish it tonight. Be sure to go over there. You can get an ebook, paperback, and hard copy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so guys, what are you waiting for? I mean, I got the ebook. It's sitting right next to me. I use it as a reference source. Paperback, I believe, is only $12 or $13. Come on, man. Y'all spend that at Mickey D's. Let's be honest. I mean, that's nothing for anything. But, again, the book is Smoke and Mirrors.
Smoking, SMOKIN.
Yeah, smoking, like, the word smoking, y'all know what I'm talking about?
Smoking.
Smoking, like it's on fire, smoking off the ground, and mirrors. I really, so far, I got to say, I've enjoyed it, and I can't say that about many books. Usually I get bored. I gotta be honest. I'm not a big book reader to start off with, and when I do, if the book doesn't grab my attention, say by chapter
Jill
2.
has ADD, people.
I do have ADD. I'm not going to lie. And if the book don't get my attention by chapter 2.
Wait, Jim.
Adios.
Jill has ADD and I have OCD, and the combination between the two of us is crazy.
Yeah,
those are
technical
initials there.
Yeah, it's but and I also like how did you put it? It's a 21st century chronicle of cover-ups and conspiracies. That is actually really what it is, except for when we get into UFO stuff. But I mean, it really is. It chronicles it very well. I mean, I've seen a lot of movies, a lot of documentaries, a lot of books from all the subject matter we've talked about. Frankly, I've never seen anybody put Ruby Ridge as well together. I mean, I really came away both with Oklahoma and Ruby Ridge with a much better understanding. And I watched all the news, and I still came away with a better understanding after I read the book. So I tell you, people, get out there, get it. I mean, there's only so much information we can pack into a show. So really, you need to get out, get it, and enjoy it. And like I said, $13 for a paperback? Come on, man. Yeah, y'all go to Starbucks 2 days, you don't wasted that easy. Stop at Mickey D's and see you go to Starbucks and get you a cappuccino and a muffin, that's it. That's $14 right there. And you'll trust me, you'll get more enjoyment out of Jim's book than you will out of that cappuccino. Well, most people will. I don't want to say everybody. I don't get no trouble here, but most people will. But anyway, tonight, 9/11 was one of those events that seemed to, it's going to echo in time and history for a very long time ago, just like some of the other events in, World War IIs and stuff like that. Things like these are going to echo the gas chambers and Nazi Germany. All of that stuff echoes in time. And I do think this will echo in time for a long, long time, especially since no one seems to think the official explanation is the correct explanation. So, Jim, what do you think? Did the government get it right? How about that? Well, that's the first question we'll start off with tonight. And no laughing out loud. Did the government get it right?
You're asking me?
No, I'm asking Jim. I'm asking Jim, sorry.
I think it was the press were very controlled in the way it was presented to us. There's many glitches in it, and too many. And it obviously didn't go down exactly the way they said, and there's a whole lot of involvement there that I am sure was very carefully pre-planned and premeditatedly put into motion to get this one to go. And they were able to kill 4,000 people. And when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, they killed about 5,000.
Yeah, right, about 5.
That made everybody run, not walk down to the draft board to go after them. To go after Japan. It really worked. And I think this was designed for purposes, and most of them were right back to oil.
Well, it's funny because, when 9/11 happened, George Bush had a 61% approval rating, which, by the way, is higher than Obama's ever had in office. But after 9/11, his approval rating soared to almost 88%. That is unheard of for a president, with the exception of Ronald Reagan and maybe Kennedy. That's unheard. Even Clinton never got above 76%. So I'm like, that's just unheard of for a president of the United States to hit a high that high. And it amazes me because, he finished out.
Right, but that's a perspective, Joe.
No, this carried for like 4 years. It's not a perspective. You can't have something last 3-4 years and call it perspective, because this was a long-term deal. I mean, he convinced. So for 6 years, this man, or 5.5 years, this man's approval rating was above 70%. I mean,
and Giuliani soared as well, right?
Yeah, but right at the end, because he was leaving when this all happened. But it helped Giuliani, and it's a shame because who took over? Bloomberg? No, who took over when Giuliani left? Yeah, okay. See, Bloomberg didn't get any of the credit. Giuliani got it all. But
no, absolutely not.
But Bloomberg
contrary
did most of the
as well.
work. Yeah, but Bloomberg did most of the work. I mean, 9/11 was only 3 months before he was out of office, or 4 months, whatever it was. And Giuliani
He's really a beloved governor. He really, honestly, people would love to see him back, because he also supported the police department in New York, which, we have de Blasio now, and he does nothing. And, so people look to Giuliani saying, hey, he supported New York Police Department, which is important,
Well, it's not. And who wrote that to me? No, Kim, it's smoke and mirror. Nothing is as it appears at all. Sorry. I couldn't, for some reason, I was having a hard time spitting that out, but that's the whole title of the book. I just call it Smoke and Mirrors because it's easier, but it's if you just type in Jim Allen, Smoke and Mirrors, or Jim Allen, nothing is as it appears. Either way, it'll come up. You can find it, but the easiest way, UFO Undercover, it's linked right off the page, so you don't even have to go look and make it easier. So, Jim, I mean, why do you think, first off, what government would want to do this? Or, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me slow myself down here. Okay, let's go back a little ways. Bush is in the White House 9 months. Technically, not even that long, because the first 3 months he was BSing around with other stuff in China. So he's about full-fledged president about 6 months at this time when this happened. So there's no way his regime could have pulled this off. So my question to you is, why would Clinton's regime wanted to have done this? Because, I mean, it obviously made Bush famous. So I'm kind of curious to what you think about that. But go ahead, man.
Well, not in my eyes.
Well, go ahead. That's what I'm saying. Go ahead. You call me wrong all night. I don't mind. You're going to hurt my feelings.
He's a good actor.
He's a good actor.
And after this happened, you know, he got on television and he got everybody pretty much riled up and waving a flag, you know, and it's like, wow, they came here and attacked us and we got to go get them, you know. And what a joke, because no country attacked us. I didn't see any ships or planes or anything that came from Afghanistan as a country. These are just religious fanatics that live in caves and move around wherever they can stay.
Yeah, and we invaded 2 countries over this.
And we invade Afghanistan, you know, to get back at them, and that's not the way it should be. That's the first blinking neon sign.
Yeah.
And then there's many, many others.
Yeah, well, you know, a gentleman was arguing with me one day that there was no real weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So I made him quantify what a weapon of mass destruction is. A weapon of mass destruction is a weapon that kills hundreds, thousands, or millions of people, right? Isn't that true? Well, Saddam Hussein had killed 3,500,000 people since he had been the leader of Iraq. So I think he does qualify as a weapon of mass destruction. So on that account, I can't agree with him because this guy was using sarin gas and mustard gas on the Iranians. He killed, I think it was 25,000 Iranians in one afternoon with sarin gas. So I would qualify, there might not have been nuclear weapons, but weapons of mass destruction, yet I do think he does qualify for that. Whether or not he was linked to 9/11, I got to be honest, I don't think he was. Not directly, anyway. I know he'd like to take credit for it, but go ahead. I'm getting ahead of myself.
I don't think he can take credit for it anymore.
Well, now he can. Now he's up there with his 30 virgins, right? Is that how it goes? Oh, wait, no, wait. You only get the virgins if you die with honor. He was hung, wasn't he? Oh, guess he ain't even getting no virgins. Damn. I'm sorry. Well, no, I mean, that's what they say. They say if they die in battle in honor, they get 30 virgins, you know, when they go on the crossover. But I was thinking he's going to be like Marcy. You know, they're getting ready to hang the ex-leader of Egypt pretty soon. And he ain't going to get his virgins either. You see, look, you crazy Muslims, you better pay attention. You're not getting your virgins. And I'm just saying.
It's a whole stupidity. I mean, really.
But it's a true fact, though. It's a fact.
Well, they believe it, but yeah, all right.
It's a driving fact for what they do. They think they're going to be well rewarded. The point I'm making right now is no, you're not going to be well rewarded. Because if you don't die with honor, you can't be well rewarded. And since most of the people in these wars don't die with honor, usually with very little honor, they're not actually doing it. So I think maybe that's something the U.S. should take a little more hard stance on. Showing, look, you know, he didn't. Your leaders are not dying with honor. Come on, Bin Laden was hiding, cowering in the room when they shot him to death. That's not dying with honor. He's not
allegedly.
Allegedly, I have to agree with the allegedly because I don't think it was him. But I still to this day don't think it was Bin Laden that they killed. Matter of fact, let me get your opinion on this, Jim. So we listened to the president. Go ahead.
Maybe he's on a beach somewhere. Sipping mint juleps.
Well, his wife says his number 1 and number 2 wife said that they live on the French Riviera.
300.
Well, but she said that they live on the French Riviera. Since then he's going back. Everybody forgets he was educated in the United States. This guy's a Princeton or a Harvard graduate. This is not some idiot that they want to paint him out to be. He went to Ivy League colleges and was trained by the CIA. He single-handedly defeated the Russians in Afghanistan, so he's not this stupid idiot that Obama wants everybody to think he is. That's not who this guy really is. The U.S. government said for a fact he had at least 40 replicas of him running around the country with his wives and everybody else and his kids, so no one actually knew. Now, I found it interesting that they said they did a DNA test, which I don't know where they got his DNA from. But somehow they got his DNA and they tested his DNA and then they threw his body in the ocean.
In the ocean.
Jim, it just sounds like some
Bullshit.
hogwash, man. But what do you think? I mean, do you think that's what happened? I mean, is that what really went down?
Well, see, that's, if you're planning an assassination, the best thing you can do is identify the assassin right away, quick, and then assassinate him. then the chain is broken, and I mean, everybody can say, well, I don't think he did it, but the government says he did it, so that's who did it. And
it's
you look at Bennetti and the scenario. Well, in this case, we paid Osama bin Laden $200 million to get his mountain fighters together and flick Russia.
And he did a good job. But we were supplying him weapons hand over fist, money hand over fist. He got the right to run and go. And I remembered seeing a picture of him in full Arab garb like he wears. And then they showed a picture of him. He was visiting the U.S. He had no beard. He was clean cut, clean shaven, hair done, wearing a suit. You would not have known it was him. There is no way, if you seen this guy in the street, that you would think it was bin Laden. So if he went to France and did that, and they say he speaks, 5 languages. So, and I don't think the CIA would kill this guy off. I think he was still useful to them. I got to be honest about it. I think he was still useful to the CIA. He still has clout in the Middle East and other places. And really, I don't think Obama was smart enough to catch him and kill him. And then there's the other problem, that some of SEAL Team 6 said they didn't think it was him. And everybody said there was no reason to kill him. They could have took him alive. If you watch the video of what went down,
wait.
Easily took him alive.
I'd like to ask, Jim, what's your opinion on what Joe just said?
You mean, could he still
Was
be
he
alive?
useful to have alive?
Well, I've got a lot of doubts about that one too. And how can we ever know the truth when it's all controlled by the NSA?
No, yeah,
and then the controlled releases to the media are what we hear, and we don't know if it's true or not. It's just like they said Kennedy was shot from the school book repository from behind. But that isn't what happened, because when he was hit, his head went backwards. So he obviously was delivered that shot from the front, not the back. And that's just science. That's simple science.
Mm.
Yeah, the blood wouldn't have been splattered all over Jackie O the way it was if the shot would have came from the back. It's, I mean, they obviously lied about that. Obviously, lots of people caught it. But the thing about it is, how do you force them to tell the truth? Well, they're not going to. Now, there may be in the future, when we become a much more united planet, that a lot of these truths might come out, because it won't be damaging to the country anymore, because, it'll be a different type of government. But right now, these kind of things would still damage our government. If it was to come out tomorrow that our government assassinated Kennedy, there'd be hell to pay. I don't think I
mean, to look at it another way, that's like, will they ever admit that they've had UFO physical evidence of UFOs since 1947?
I tell you what, the UFO thing's a little bit different. What they do, this is a quote from Dick Cheney. Was it Nick? No, Nick, not Nick Polk. Who was it that asked him? Was Nick Redfern? Was one of? No, it was presidential UFO guy. It's a good friend of mine. His name ain't coming in my head. Oh man, he's gonna kill me. I can't remember his name. Any other time, the guy's name would come right to the tip of my head. But anyway, he has the presidential UFOs like Grant Cameron. He asked Dick Cheney if they had UFOs. Dick Cheney looked at him and said, well, if I answer that, I'd have to kill you. That's an admission. That's an admission. Yeah. See, he's not the only one that's done that. There's been other politicians who have acknowledged the fact that we are keeping secrets. They're just not going to tell us. So that's a start. And you have had several other politicians come out on a UFO platform. Had presidents like Carter and Clinton actually actively looking into it. So even though they weren't told anything, they were still actively. How do you keep a secret from the president of the United States? That's something in itself. But
No.
they're not need to know.
Yeah.
I don't know how the president don't have need to know, but apparently somebody out there says you don't need to know.
They got a new method. They've been using it for a long time, but if you get somebody that has had contact or knows inside information, or especially somebody that's ever signed an oath of secrecy, what they do now is, okay, we know that you know, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a federal gag order on you. And if you say a word to one single person, anybody, we're going to lock you up in a federal penitentiary and throw the key away. And that's the method they're using now to control information.
And well, they do a lot of that. And I got to tell you, though, for the most part, I've noticed with the government when it comes to UFO stuff, as long as it's not something that's damaging to them, they will usually leave it. See, in the old days, they were much more going after people who are chasing these secrets. These days, not as much. These days, I really think...
Wait. Joe.
Let me finish. Hold on. I really think for the most part that the government really wants this secret out. They just want it out in a different way. They don't want it where it's damaging them, but they want the citizens to be aware that there is something other than this. And if you've been paying attention, if you ever read my thing about the desensitization program, if you've been paying attention, that's where we are right now. We are now on Mars, and we have now pretty sure we have found life on Mars. So that's a big step towards admitting to the fact that there's advanced life in the known galaxy. So, but we'll see how it all comes out. We'll probably know within the next 100 years. There'll probably be an admission in there.
Here's another angle. If you were, let's just say, a Pleiadian, and you lived out there in the Pleiades, and you came and kind of watched over this planet from time to time, and you saw what we are and what we do, I'll bet you'd be scared to death of us. And that's what I think is the truth. Because if you lived in peace and you lived out there, you were non-aggressive, or you had an agenda that was non-aggressive, you would look at us as the most warmongering critters that ever lived. You know what I'm saying, Joe?
Yeah, like animals, which is what we are. They and that's another thing too. What happens? Let's say the aliens show up in New York City. They land on Staten Island. They fly down. They meet Stephanie. Okay, so that's one human they met. Depending on what mood she was in, she might make a really good impact on them.
I'd always be that nice.
or own this planet as fast as possible. But regardless, I mean, there would still be other humans they would meet after that down the line. So whatever impression they got off of her, they would go, okay, well, they would expect this from the next one. But of course, humans are so goofy. You never know what you're going to get from the next.
Random.
Next. And then they might meet somebody that's all peace, love, and light. Our problem is we either want to kill the aliens or worship them. We need to get in between somewhere. It's just funny to me when I'm interviewing people and talking to people. It's either let's kill the aliens or let's worship them. People tell me we should kill them and take their technology. Really, you're going to go kill a race that's, I don't know, in a magnitude 100,000 to 100 million years more advanced than we are? Doesn't sound like a real smart thing to do to me. Or worship them, which either one doesn't sound. Stephen Hawking just came out recently talking about why we shouldn't be sending signals into space. And he's got a damn good argument, because he said if you look at the world pre-European, before Europe started spreading around the world was one, then here come the Europeans. Europeans killed 180 million Indians smallpox, and they know 100 million just get them out of their way. And that's in America. That's not even in South America, where they probably killed that many. I don't think people realize how many Indians actually were on a planet back in the day. So you have all of these people did, plus they went to Africa. So basically, even if they're not here to conquer, they're still going to conquer us. We're either going to give ourselves to them freely for the technology or the knowledge, or we're going to do something else. But there's no real way for our limited intellect to understand the race, say, even 1,000 years more advanced than us. Everything's going to be like magic to us. It'd be the same thing if me, you, and Jim went back, 500 years ago, and we're having this conversation, and everybody was, we were all on Skype, and somebody was standing next to you going, oh my God, they're a ghost in a box. They'd be shooting up the computer screens and us along with them. Or if you flicked your big cigarette lighter, oh my God, he's a witch, he's a witch, he's a witch. I'm just, it's just the way it is. There is no way that I could take my pad and go back even 100 years and explain to somebody what this is. In 1916, I could not make the person of that day understand how this pad works, what it actually is, or even how it came to be. There's just no point of reference. Yeah,
that's impossible to do that.
So
my sense for Joe is that they're not going to give us the technology that we need to travel interstellar wise. They're not going to let us have it because
I agree with that.
They don't want us out there sticking a flag in their planet and saying this belongs to us.
That's what we do too.
Until we can evolve beyond wars, I don't think we're going to get it.
And I don't even think they would mind as much if we stuck one flag on the planet, but our problem is there'd be 5 other countries following us, sticking 5 more flags.
Yeah.
It's just not good.
Yeah, ISIS would be out there.
Yeah, ISIS would be the next one out there doing terrorists on their planet.
Yeah, trying to establish a caliphate. So, no, I think that this is going to stay this way for quite a while.
I can't. From what I've seen coming out of Russia lately, I can't see anything changing anytime soon. I just don't really see where at this point I'm not even sure where the world's going. 10 years ago it looked like it was headed in the right direction. All of a sudden, somebody said the other day it's since Obama's been president, but it started before that. But he's really helped to accelerate. I mean, he's probably been the most destabilizing factor on the planet in, I don't know, 3 decades, because he just doesn't understand foreign affairs. He just doesn't understand anything really when it comes to country. So,
well, we don't know Jim's take on Obama. Jim, I'm going to put you out there on the hot seat.
On the hot seat, ooh.
Where am I going out?
Oh, she was asking you, how do you feel about Obama?
Well, I feel the same way about him as I do every president, all the way back to Kennedy. And the bottom line is there's no such thing as Republicans and Democrats. It's
not anymore. It's not.
Our presidents are selected, not elected, and it's money and power that does it.
And oh yeah. Definitely in power.
I don't.
Right, but what about the Muslim aspect that is going on in our country? We never had that before.
I'm sorry. Say what word was that?
Muslim. Muslim.
The Muslim.
Oh, you hating a Muslim? Shame on you.
I don't think Obama's a Muslim. I think everybody thinks he is, but the agendas that these presidents...
Yeah, but I think he is.
Well, he is, he ain't, whatever. Actually, he hasn't been to church since he's been in the White House. He hasn't attended church. No, he hadn't attended church. They made a big deal about that just recently. He was legally, he was a Muslim until he was 22 years old, and then he changed faith when he met Michelle Obama because she was a Christian, and her daddy was not going to let her marry a Muslim. That's what that was about. But so he probably is in reality at least part of the faith. To what extent? I don't even really care. I got to be honest. At this point, I just want to see somebody else. I don't even care anymore. I just want to see somebody else. I don't. I know different presidents serve different things and they serve different groups, but I'm ready for the liberal agenda to go away and some other agenda to come in for a while, because frankly, I haven't seen any positives under this president. I mean, just haven't seen anything globally or money wise that I would consider to be a plus. He's suing, by the way, because the Hall of Famers want to put him in as the president with the least experience in history. They said out of every president that's been a president, he has the shoddiest resume ever. He said there's not even anybody close to as little experience as he's had. I think they said the closest one had only served 4 years as a senator. But also, frankly, I don't know how the guy got to be president. I got to be honest with you. I have not a clue.
All right, you know what? This is going to be for tomorrow night, Thursday night, Flipside Light.
Well, wait.
However,
I'm
going to
Obama.
Wait. Let me throw this out there. And I know this, and we can get back to 9/11 with Jim Allen in a moment. But all right, so Donald Trump. What do you think?
He's a sweet, innocent guy. Jim, what
do you think about him as a presidential hopeful?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, if we get Hillary, we got more of the same because she's one of the establishment, just like he is. And it doesn't really matter. They're gonna, with the super PAC and the way they're electing presidents now, I swear, he or she will be elected before they're ever elected, because that's what the plan is. They'll make it happen.
I agree. But what about Donald? Would you vote for Donald Trump? Joe, would you?
Never. Never. I'm sorry. I know you're a New Yorker, but I'm.
No. But I'm not saying I would. I'm just saying it. So, all right. So you said never. Joe, would you?
If he was running against Hillary, I would.
But he will be.
No. I don't think Hillary's going to get the nomination at the rate she's going. She's going to have to do something.
Well, we're going to have to save.
Well, no. What just happened is 2 of her friends just are in the middle of being interrogated by the Benghazi panel, and it's not looking good for Hillary. I just, she's got so much baggage to try to win this election. And I know a lot of Democrats feel the same way, that if she runs against any Republican, she's going to probably lose. The Democrats have a chance to win in 2016, but not with Hillary.
Maybe Jeb Bush, yeah.
Even if she became president, they would just lose more of the Senate and the House to the GOP, and we just have the same thing we got now. So,
all right. So this is the Joe Montaldo show, and this really is paranormal. And Jim, would you be delighted to come on the program on Saturday night, News on the Flip Side? Okay, so we can resume this kind of conversation. And then, that being said, all right, let's get back to conspiracies. Yes?
Well, actually, we were just talking about 9/11, but getting back to the Twin Towers, being an Airedale, in case ladies don't even know what an Airedale is, I was in the Navy and I worked on jets. I was at AEAT Advanced, which is Avionics Electronics Advanced. One of the first things we learn is how jet fuel affects different things. JP5, you got a couple of different types of jet propulsion fuels, okay? Most of which would not have been hot enough to melt the metal in that building. But there is a JP4 and a JP5. So the real problem is the entry points of the planes. The buildings should have never came down the way they did. I mean, the top should have just fell over, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, on the ground. The only way you could really bring down a building like that is, well, there's a couple of ways, but if you were going to say you were bringing it down with an airplane, the only way the plane could have brought it down is if by some miracle, all the fuel from the tanks ran down the 4 main rafters going down the center core of the building.
Right, but
and melted.
Is that not possible?
It is possible. Okay. Is it likely? No, but it is possible. It's not outside the realm of possibility.
Implosion is what you're implying?
That's exactly what would have happened. It would have melted the 4 main beams and it would have collapsed.
Yeah, I got you.
But the other problem is, go ahead.
I lived in Las Vegas for 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main things that's been going on here while I was here is they're tearing down old hotels, building new hotels.
Oh, yeah, lots of them.
And they do what's called controlled demolition.
Yep.
And they go in and wire the whole place, and then they bring it down. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the video called Loose Change. Have either one of you seen that?
No. I don't think so.
Well, in that video, they took the best picture of those towers coming down, and at every level, you could see fire coming out from the explosions. And they brought it down just like they bring a building down, straight down.
Yeah.
And it was clear as day in that video that I saw.
Well, I've seen a lot of videos, but I got to be honest with you. I got two friends. One of them, this is what he does for a living. That's what they do. They bring down buildings. He said in order to bring them buildings down, if the place was completely gutted, it would have still took them 7 months to a year to set up the explosion on one building. He said on 7 buildings, you're talking a couple of years. And he said if they had to do it on the QT and hidden, you're talking a decade to put them buildings together to bring them down the way they came down. That's the real problem behind the theory of, oh, well, we were putting the buildings together and bringing them down. I watched them do the one in New Orleans, one of the ones they just brought down just recently. It took them 4 months to wire this building up, and it was much smaller than the Twin Towers, and it was completely open. And it still took 4 months to correctly wire it. So we're talking about wiring a building that's, 100 stories tall with no one seeing it, no one being involved in it, and no one talking about it. It would have took a big crew to do this. So, and to bring down 7 of them, that's almost an impossibility. But there is a different way, which everybody keeps forgetting about. The original attempt to bring down the buildings was to take out the main pillars underneath the buildings. If you were to use, say, like a 1-ton tactical nuke underground to where it could spread out, because no one realizes all the buildings are connected underground. Most people don't realize that. But all the building pylons go down to the ground, and all the buildings are interconnected through underground. If you were to blow out all the main pillars, the buildings would have came down. But even that would have been a different type of explosion. See, I'm with you, Jim, in the fact that I thought this building had been mined to be brought down like any imploded building we've ever seen, because that's what it looks like to me. I'm not even going to lie. That's what it looks like to me. But after talking to demolitions experts on how long it would take to wire the building, that kind of changed my opinion on that. He said there's no way it could have been done in the 6 months of George Bush's presidency. He said it's an impossibility. He said they do this for a living all the time. And he said there's no way.
Right, but wait.
Crew of 100, they couldn't.
Wait a second. So in 1992, there was a terrorist, attack underneath the building and blah, blah, blah. And that was like a major thing and whatever. And then now we find ourselves now 2011. And like, honestly, this was any given September day, gorgeous day, beautiful out. I was running late for work, took a bus into the city, and then sat in the Battery Tunnel for 45 minutes because they said, oh, the World Trade Center is on fire. Yeah. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to be late for work. And then I get out, and then I'm like 10 blocks away.
It's a rough thing to watch. And I mean, you were seeing it up close. All of us were watching it on TV.
Close. I know. I mean, like, so I'm 10 blocks away. I'm looking up, and then I'm looking at one on fire, and then I watch surreal like a plane coming from the left-hand side, and then all of a sudden people you had to hear screams of like, and then that hit it. And so what you're saying, Joe, about the implosion, there's something to the whole implosion thing, because the way that hit that, yeah, it was fiery and whatever, but how did that, they fell down. They didn't get knocked over. They just
and
went
frankly,
down.
Everybody forgets this isn't the first time a building's flown into the Twin Towers. We've had
I'll never forget that day.
Before.
I'll never forget watching that. I mean,
one plane in each building shouldn't have. Yeah, one plane in each building shouldn't have brought them down. That's just a load of crap. However they came down, we're going to argue. It's going to be like Kennedy. They're just never going to tell us, or they're not even going to tell us why. Some people say it's because they had taken all that gold they had there and it was all gone, and they needed to hide it and cover it up into destruction. Some people say it was because of papers. There's a group of ufologists say that they had alien fetuses in one of the towers, and that's why they brought it down. no one knows what. To me, it would have been easier just to move everything instead of bringing the towers down. This was a significant event that set America backwards, but it also united the country. In a way, it hadn't, Jim, been united since maybe
at the time,
World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so it united it for 8 years.
The last time we had an incident like this, it was Pearl Harbor.
That's what I'm saying, World War II. So
look how that worked, you know.
Yeah, we conquered half the world then. That's another thing people don't realize. If the United States would have kept all the territory that it took back in World War II, we would actually own almost half the world. And if we would have done what, what's his name, the crazy general said, and went ahead and used nukes on Russia, Russia would be part of the United States now, so would China for that matter. So there would be none of this argument. So if they would have actually listened to your boy back in the 40s, today would be a whole different society for us. Russia, China, United States would be all one big nation. It would be an entirely different world. And with them united and Europe united and South America united, it would only be really Africa as the holdout. So it would just be an entirely different world. But no, we didn't listen, and we let Russia build its military back and spent the next 40 years in the Cold War with their asses, which I still think is a game. And I think it's a game right now with Putin.
I have to tell you, wait. The vibe in New York, first of all, I've never seen New Yorkers in unite in the way they did at the time. And Joe, just so you know, your cell phone didn't work, your house phones didn't work, nothing worked.
That's everyone was immediate blackout.
Right, but like everyone was in a state of like, oh my God, like there was a blackout. Like it was like I was in the middle of.
They cut y'all's communication off the island off. As far as all New Yorkers.
No, not even the island. I was in Manhattan at the time.
Well,
I was up.
Well, I mean island. I mean to me that whole area up there is just one giant island. I mean, I know they're all independent and separate, but to me they're just one big massive thing. The city of New York itself was cut off from the world. They cut y'all off. Yeah. And there was no reason for it because there were cell towers active everywhere. There was no reason for them to cut y'all off. So, Jim, why do you think they blacked them out?
I think every time they do something like that, it's a test, and they're running a test to see what it's like cause and effect. What's the effect if this is done? And I think everything that the government has done in the past, and all the things we talked about from Ruby Ridge on up, is always a test, and it's see how far they can go and what they can get away with.
Oh, yeah, obviously with Ruby Ridge and with Waco, they were trying to see what they could get away with. Go ahead. Well, it's like the Oklahoma explosion. That's an awful big explosion for two little tanks of manure.
Yeah, well, that didn't happen either. We talked about that the last time.
I know. I was just referencing back to it.
They've had two documentaries where they're trying to recreate that truck with the ammonium nitrate in it, and they finally couldn't get it done, so they substituted nitromethane in 55-gallon barrels for the diesel fuel, and that really didn't even get it done.
I know. Anyway, well, it's a big explosion, so you got to kind of wonder. You just really do. You know, now.
Well, there were two explosions, Joe. Two distinct different explosions, 2 seconds apart, 2 to 3 seconds apart. And one of them was where they did just what you suggested before. They compromised the main beams that held the building up. They blew those with primer cord, chopped them up, and then the fertilizer bomb supposed goes off, and that's why the front of the building came down.
And it was a hell of an explosion. I'll tell you that. When I seen it, I was like, damn. With the towers and with first off, kind of irritates me we didn't go back and build some real big towers back there. I thought that was cheesy. But those two towers claimed the tallest building in the world for a long time before the other two passed it up. But they should be something more than what was built there. I don't find that, and in New York, if I'm offending y'all, I apologize for this, but I don't find the building and monument put back does the towers justice. I mean, these were the World Trade Centers. Everybody had business going on there. It doesn't matter what country you're from; they were probably represented there. So I just don't feel like
Look, most of the brokerages, the investment banking, all the trades, every single thing was going on in those buildings, Joe. From Cantor Fitzgerald, like there were so many companies, like huge.
So
like,
I got a question for both of y'all. Now these buildings, back in the day, in 2011 and on, and we were still running a lot of paper documentation back then. So all of that would have been destroyed, wouldn't it? There'd have been no backup copies. I mean, the backup copies would be destroyed.
Everything is electronical, and let's face it. No, but not a couple of years, 10 years ago? You're saying it was so much different? Maybe there was. Yeah, maybe there was paper, documentation that was destroyed. I don't really think as much as you would think, but possibly. So what kind of things?
All big firms today still have paper copies of everything. All firms do. It's not as
accounting-wise. Accounting is still archaic.
Now, even doctors, everything. The reason why is because a magnet can wipe out a hard drive. Any electrical wave can wipe out a hard drive, so it doesn't matter where it's stored. You really need to have a paper backup copy of anything you do. So most everybody now, they do one of three things. They either make a paper backup hard drive, or they do a backup on an SD drive, which isn't wiped out by a magnet. But still, there are ways of destroying that data. I've been telling this to people for a long time because our society is becoming vulnerable, especially in America. Within another 100 years, we will be so digitally saturated that any EMP pulse could set our society back 100 years. Easy. If everything you do, think about it, we take it granted for so much now that's run and controlled by computers that we used to do by hand. One EMP pulse, one across the nation, that's it. We're back in the Stone Age. And if we don't have paper books to go back to see how things are made and done, we're screwed. We won't even be able to catch up. We'll be back in the Stone Age because we won't even know how to make a car or make anything else because it was all digital, and the digital records are gone now. So that's why you always have to keep paper. You've got to keep some kind of hard copy backup. I know the Pentagon requires hard copy backups. So does the White House, for that matter. So, that's why when they said, well, where's Lois Lerner's emails? Somewhere Lois Lerner, them emails have been printed out and paper copied. So you got to kind of wonder where that was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joe, I've got an opinion about all of this.
Oh, throw it out there, baby. Throw it out there.
And that is that there's really only one agenda. And this agenda is the agenda of the elitists, the Consul of Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers. Mm-hmm. They all are trying to get this one agenda done. And that is establish a new world order. And
I was going to say, I knew he was going to say that.
Okay.
George Bush Sr., when he was president, he said 7 times on live television and news broadcasts that we will establish a new world order. And this is what this has been about ever since it's been on the dollar bill. And I feel that every president we get is furthering that agenda along in order to be president. They have to do that because the people that elect them, that's what they're getting.
Listen, you know what, Joe? I have to agree with Jim. You know what? This new world order, like we've seen this over and over, like everything, like I'm inclined to believe that. And I'm not a conspiracy person, but there's something really truthful to that. Like, I do believe that even whoever the hell gets elected, they're like, oh, no, this is the agenda, and you're going to get there with it. And I think that no one really has a choice, and this is where they're going.
See, I used to think that. I really did. But after being a student of human nature, I don't think that anymore. One, the Masons are not going to agree with the Bilderbergs. That's fundamentally different organizations. One's a religious Christian-based organization that comes from the Crusades and the Knights Templars.
So there'll be controversy, but it doesn't.
No. but they control the money just like the Bilderbergers do. That's the problem. You have 5 or 6 major groups around the world that control major amounts of money, but they're not going to agree with each other. They never will. This group wants power for themselves. This group wants power for themselves. And this is one of the other problems we got on this planet. You're never going to get the Chinese president to agree with Barack Hussein Obama. You're never going to get a Barack Hussein Obama.
Right, but he's not going to be president forever, Joe.
But it doesn't matter. It's the same fundamental principle of any organizations that are out there. If there was one, if the Masons and the Templars and the Bilderbergers and everybody had joined forces, the Skull and Bones and everybody else, then I would believe that. But there's too many fundamental Christian and Muslim and Jewish religious.
So you think because of religion?
Oh, hell yeah. Religion's
Okay.
been the driving factor of the world for 2000. Well,
yeah, I understand.
And it hasn't changed today. It's still the driving factor in today. Every war, every fight that's going on this planet today right now is religious based. And none of that's changed. And I can't see it changing any time in the next, 400 or 500 years, because as a society, as a 7,200,000,000 society, we just have not got past that yet. Even in America, 75% of people believe in God, 55% practice religion. Worldwide, that's much higher. 90% of people believe in God, and like 78% practice religion. So, it changes. It changes the way you look at the world. And if you're a Buddhist, or if you're a Muslim, or you're a Christian, or you're a Jew, you look at the world fundamentally different. You're just not going to agree with someone else. It's just a fundamental difference.
So wait. So what you're saying, let's paraphrase.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you don't believe there's some New World Order going on in any degree at all?
I think they try, but the problem is, and that's why I think you get different outcomes with different presidents. Because I think, like the Skull and Bones had control of the presidency for 8, 16, 20 years under Reagan, Bush, and Baby Bush. And if Jeb gets back in, they're going to have control again. But that's Skull and Bones. The Masons had control for almost 100 years from Benjamin Franklin's time forward. But they lost control. The Bilderbergs have had control. But it goes back and forth. So what happens is the Skull and Bones agenda got pushed for 20 years. Well, whoever Obama's agenda, whoever he works for, it's a counter agenda to the agenda that the Skull and Bones was pushing. He's definitely anti-Bush. He's definitely anti-all that. And he's definitely pro-big business and anti-poor people, which is a different stance.
All right. So let me just overarchingly say this, and let's see if you both agree. Isn't it sad?
Tell me you don't want to agree. That ain't no fun.
No. But isn't it sad that it's not really ever genuine, like somebody who's really for you, who really wants to see certain things? Everything has an effing agenda. There are so many factors.
I think there has been
so political.
I think there have been presidents who wanted to do the right thing. I just don't think they could, but I think they wanted to do the right thing.
All right, name one.
Kennedy, Reagan. Both of them wanted, even Clinton.
I'd say Reagan, but yeah, I agree.
Even
but
Clinton,
I'm just saying. It's
wanted to do some of it, but you got two choices when you become president: do the right thing or keep the power. Which one do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Which one is it? Are you going to give up the power?
All right, wait. We got Jim. What's your opinion on what we're speaking?
Yeah, get out there.
Joe and I are so used to doing radio.
let Jim go ahead and give us your opinion on all this stuff. And when Jim's done, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. So go ahead, Jim.
I didn't really get what you were trying to ask me. You were both going there once, and the words got mixed up.
We were basically just talking about how the different supposedly power groups, how would they mix with each other? Like the Skull and Bones mixing with the Bilderbergs, or the Bilderbergs mixing with the Masonry, or the Masons mixing with the Templars, or the Templars mixing with the group out of South America. And then there's a whole couple of new groups on the rise that have lots of money, like the Chinese Triad. I mean, they're loaded. The Russian mafia, the U.S. mafia. There's a lot of power players here that I just don't feel are going to play along with the New World Order. I don't think they're going to be able to force them because they got the money and the power themselves. So it makes it hard. I think there's several New World Order groups out there. I just don't think any of them have got the grasp on the planet yet, is what I'm saying. No one's been able to really wrangle it down. But go ahead, Jim.
when you have so much money that you can buy and sell countries, start and stop wars, and change economies, it's not about money anymore.
It's about power.
And once you get in that position, then you're in a manipulation to achieve control, absolute control. Now, the New World Order, that's what it's about. It's about getting absolute control of every living thing on this planet and everything else. And the bottom line is they want a one world government run by them for the whole world.
I would like a one world government, not run by them, mind you, but I would like a one world government.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Jim.
They want a one world religion.
Yeah, and they do.
And I think that these few people at the very top that are at this stage in life, I guess you would say, I think that they really believe they can do this. They can get this on. And I think that's what they feed off of, is that energy to do this. And
I agree. I do think they do try to push their will on everyone else because of the money and the power. And that's what I was saying earlier about, there are some presidents that wanted to do the right thing, but like I told Stephanie, the real problem is, do you want to do the right thing or do you want to keep the power? Well, if you want to keep the power, you're probably not going to be able to do the right thing, because, what is it? What's the saying? Absolute power breeds absolute corruption.
No. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. All right. That being said, Joe, you need to take a break.
Yeah, we will just a second. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of stuff going on. Don't forget all the things we talked about at the beginning of the show. Please write to me at icar@cox.net. Be sure you catch all of that. We check out our show lineup on the schedule on any of the websites that are connected to the schedule. So pop over to UPRN, News on the Flip Side, UFO Undercover, United Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio. Pop over to any of the sites. You can get to us. We're easy. We are probably by far the easiest radio network to find. Also, we have just added a new pod site. Hold on, let me get the name up for you right quick. It's another new podcast site. So this one is an RSS feed for right now, but I will change it in the near feed to a direct download so you can download to it. It is simply called podcast.com. So check it out. We're over there now, and you'll start seeing more and more of our stuff over there as we move along. Yeah, you can call in. Wait about 20 minutes after we get started. We're going to run a little late tonight, Callie, so because we started a little late. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remember, come back, check out Jim Allen's new book. You can check it out from the UFO Undercover site. Be sure to go over there, click it on, check it out. Nothing is as it appears. It's all smoke and mirrors by Jim Allen. Be sure you check it out, guys. We'll be right back, so please stay tuned. And...
If you are listening to the show and wish to join us in the chat room, visit paltalk.com. Go to the social issues, select other, and enter the UFO Paranormal Radio Network.
Hello, this is Angela Thomas with a message about living life to the fullest. As a psychic clairvoyant, I often give insights to one's career path, financial situation, or relationship. Whether one is happy or not in their current situation, where he or she is right now is an important part of learning valuable lessons that can lead to fulfilling one's life purpose. If I can offer you insights, feel free to contact me at 636-278-2272 Again, 636-278-2272, or visit my website, angelathomas.org. I'm considered a psychic, so I provide accurate and detailed psychic readings for individuals as well as groups. Remember, no matter what influences your life at the moment, live life to the fullest. Stay in gratitude, count your blessings, and prepare yourself for more opportunities around the corner. I'm Psychic Angela Thomas, and my website is angelathomas.org.
Tune in to the Mind Cemetery with your hosts Chip and Nicole every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We delve into UFOs, abductions, ghosts, aliens, conspiracies, and cryptozoology.
And how could you ever forget about those creepy topics you won't hear on your local news?
This is where I would insert my obligatory skeptical statement. The Mind Cemetery, where the paranoia about the paranormal comes to rest.
Follow us on Twitter and subscribe to us on Facebook. Also, check us out on our website, mindcemetery.com, for show updates and the critically acclaimed Mind Cemetery blog.
It's not critically acclaimed, but you should check it out anyway, mindcemetery.com.
You're listening to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Whoa! Did you hear?
Listen to the Church of Mavis radio show, hosted by Jeffrey Pritchett, 11 p.m. Eastern, Saturday nights. Follow your weird and journey into the high strange. Be sure to stop by www.churchofmavisradio.com for upcoming shows, paranormal news, and show archives. That's www.churchofmavisradio.com.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Bennetti, and along with Joe Montaldo, we host News on the Flip Side. Come join us every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central for our 3-hour program. We have opinions on everything, and we're not afraid to share them. False history gets made all day, every day. The truth of the new is never on the news, but you can find it here with News on the Flip Side. Remember, don't be politically correct. Just be correct. Join us.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
I had had enough.
Well, you drove out there into the middle of nowhere and had some sort of loud verbal display challenging ET in general out in the middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFO. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything, you know. Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter time and said, any last wish before you die? Yours reached for his gun, quick as a twig, and said, fill your claw, you son of a bitch. Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six-Gun Joe.
Welcome to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo.
Good evening and welcome back to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo. Joining me as backup tonight is Stephanie Bennetti. And our guest tonight is Jim Allen. Nothing appears as it appears. Smoking mirrors.
Wait a second. So you're listening to, wait. UPRN 107.7 FM, New Orleans. Also, United Public Radio, which you don't even do that on your program. So here I am to put structure.
I am.
It doesn't matter. I'm putting structure. So welcome back, everyone.
Y'all know who I am. I have loyal listeners.
The Joe Montaldo Show. Oh, Lord.
So whoever sent me that stupid comment, aliens don't abduct Muslims, okay, you just keep believing that. You just keep feeling all snug as a rug and you bug, Mr. Muslim, because ET does not discriminate on color, sex, or religion. So
yeah, I agree with that.
If you feel all protected, hey, go. I tell people this every time. Whatever makes you feel as snug as a bug in a rug is what you should believe, whether it's in Christian God or some other God or some other demon.
Right, but that's agreeing with ignorance is bliss. I mean...
Well, ignorance is bliss in a lot of occasions. A lot of things you don't want to know. Really, ladies and gentlemen, do you want to know how slaughterhouse works? There's so many things that goes into just
I got you. I got you.
It's very bliss. So, that's why I say that, because it is. There's things I just don't want to know about. There's things I'd like to know about when it comes to our government. That's why Jim and I are talking tonight. But there are some things like I don't want to know about our government. Somebody wrote in while we were talking, a New Yorker, by the way. He said he liked the idea of a low-yield tactical nuke. He said, I never thought about it, but maybe that explains a lot of the cancer and stuff that's come out from the buildings, because it would have took out all 7 buildings, and it would have took them out in pretty much the fashion it did, because the explosion would have took a little while to bring everything down. And it would account for a lot of the contamination and radiation. I still don't think that's what happened, but something happened. And for the record, I don't think it was 2 airplanes that brought them down. I don't know what brought them down, but I'm going to say
awful lot of New York firemen that said cordite was in the air there after that building came down so strong that they said it you couldn't believe it, and that was a dozen of them.
I did see several chemical reports that did show it in some of the debris and dust on the site. That there was.
I'll tell you what. I got a couple firemen that I know that were involved in the Trade Center that would be able to come on this program and have conversations about this conversation, and it's in conjunction to what you're saying.
Yeah, well, the magazite was found in small traces on all the debris, for that matter, which does suggest that there was some present, but then we don't know to what degree or where it was, and I've heard different arguments from different companies about, it wasn't enough to bring down the buildings, it was enough, it wasn't, it was in between, maybe enough for one. There's a big argument on why, and then one company came in and said, well, no, that was in building 2, we had X amount stored there. So then I'm kind of like, well, now the government's got its patsy, here's its patsy, that's what we're going to call it, patsy number 1 over here. It's just, most people don't realize this, but those buildings were designed to take aircraft impact. The guys who actually designed the buildings actually.
I don't know, Joe. I mean, wait. Full fuel, a commercial aircraft smashing into like a building. Like, really? I mean, do they know what's going to happen? Like, does it crash?
Yeah, they crash planes into buildings before. They crash planes into all kind of stuff, actually.
Right, so it doesn't tumble down, or there's no trickle down. Like, I don't know. Like
there's a couple of problems. One, where did the fuel go? Both jets were heavy. They were recently fueled. They were heavy. They hadn't been on long flights. They were flying fuel heavy. They had only been in the air a few minutes, which means their tanks were ever. Somebody said, "Oh, the tanks were full." Well, no. Airlines never fill the tank. In case y'all don't notice, ladies and gentlemen, airlines never fill the tanks full unless it's a duration flight where they need it. They always fill them to the point plus 1 hour or 2 hours of flight time in case they had to stack up somewhere. But that's all they do. They don't fill the tanks all the way up because it just adds more weight to the plane, takes more power to get it off the ground, which just uses more. So they don't actually do that, in case you don't know that. But there's a fundamental problem with where did the fuel go? It did the buildings. We're talking about JP4 here, so if it had gone down the buildings, it would have been sheets of flame.
But Joe, I watched it crash into a building like a bomb. I mean,
yes, and you watched it stay in the building.
No, but like when it crashed, it hit it, and then there was like a fiery, like it's a bomb. Like,
yeah, but where's the fuel stored? In the wings.
It doesn't matter.
It matters a great deal.
Crashed into the building.
No, the wings would have been sheared off at impact.
But you know what? There's a lot of video footage. You could see it.
I know. I watched
the way it hit it, it just crashed. It imploded, and then.
The problem is where did the fuel go from those wings? You don't see it on the outside of the building, and you don't see it.
So what are you implying when you say that?
Listen, and you don't see it go up into a big ball of flame in the buildings itself. In other words, let's say the thing was carrying 1,500 gallons of jet propulsion fuel, burns at around 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, it hits the building, the tanks rupture. The flame, it catches on flame because it's still in the tanks. It creates a gas combustion. Boom! You've got an explosion. Okay, you should have seen a massive explosion with a huge fireball engulfing the top half of the building, but you didn't. And you also didn't see fuel pouring down the sides of the building. Why? Where did that fuel go?
All right, so let's ask your guest, Jim. What is your opinion on this?
Well, I think Joe's got a good point, but let's I'll tell you what let's do. Let's look at another form of this in a different way. Let's go to the Pentagon, and that aircraft was 155 feet long, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
It had a wingspan of 137 feet or something like that. What happened to that plane? There was nothing visible whatsoever. No tail left. Where'd the tail go? And the bottom line is, also in loose change, there was a photographer that got a picture right